Welcome to Map Your Mind. Travel through the world with your brain. Far in the southern reaches of our world lies a land where glaciers crack like thunder, and golden plains stretch into the horizon, where tango was born from sorrow and passion, and revolutions brewed beneath the shadows of wide-brimmed hats. This is Argentina, a country that has tasted empire, exile, glory, and grief, and still stands tall with a stubborn fire in its soul. To understand Argentina is to walk through time itself. It is a land shaped by the ancients, scarred by conquest, lifted by immigrants, and carved by the hands of poets and soldiers alike. Let us begin at the beginning. Long before Buenos Aires shimmered beneath street lamps, this land belonged to its first peoples. In the north, the Diaguita built advanced agricultural systems and thriving mountain communities. To the south, the Mapuche resisted every foreign wave with unmatched tenacity. And in the dense subtropical northeast, the Guarani passed down oral myths, singing the earth into memory. Each group had its own rhythm: hunters, farmers, fishers, and their stories were written not in books, but in landscapes. But the winds were changing. In 1516, Spanish explorer Juan Díaz de Solís arrived at the wide river mouth now called the Rio de la Plata. He didn't live long after that. Local resistance saw to that. But Spain wasn't discouraged. They came back, again and again, and they stayed. The indigenous people were enslaved, pushed from their homelands. Their cultures erased in the name of silver and salvation. Missions rose across the interior. Jesuit priests introduced Christianity, built schools and towns, sometimes protectors, sometimes conquerors in robes. Buenos Aires was founded in 1580 and slowly became a vital port city, though it remained a rebellious and often neglected outpost of the Spanish crown. By the 1700s, the region was part of the viceroyalty of the Rio de la Plata, one of Spain's last and largest colonies in the Americas. But loyalty was thinning. Inspired by the American and French revolutions, and fed up with colonial control, the people of Buenos Aires rose up in 1810. It was the May Revolution, the beginning of the end of Spanish rule. It took 6 more years, but in 1816, in the town of Tucumán, Argentina formally declared its independence. Yet liberation was only the start. The newly independent Argentina plunged into civil war. On one side, federalists who wanted provincial autonomy. On the other, Unitarians who demanded a strong central government in Buenos Aires. For decades, warlords known as caudillos fought for power, each with their own flags, armies, and visions. Blood was spilled in the name of unity. And unity, for a long time, remained just a dream. By the late 1800s, Argentina entered its golden age. Massive waves of immigration from Italy, Spain, Germany, and Eastern Europe transformed the country. Millions arrived with nothing but hope, and Argentina opened its arms. The cities swelled, the railways stretched, cattle ranches exploded across the pampas. Grain and beef poured out of the ports to feed a hungry Europe. Buenos Aires became one of the wealthiest cities on earth. By 1913, Argentina ranked among the top 10 richest nations in the world. But all that glitter hid growing cracks. The wealth was not shared evenly. The countryside was still dominated by a powerful elite. Workers began to organize. Strikes grew common. Socialist and anarchist ideas spread like wildfire through the crowded neighborhoods of the capital. Then came Juan Domingo Perón. In 1946, riding a wave of populism, labor support, and fiery charisma, he became president. Beside him stood his wife, Eva Perón, known to the world as Evita. Evita was a phenomenon. Born poor, she rose to power, championing women's rights, the poor, and the sick. She built schools, clinics, and labor unions, and was adored by the masses. But she was despised by the aristocracy. She died young, at 33, but her legend only grew. Today, her voice still echoes in the soul of Argentina. Perón's rule was complex, part reformer, part authoritarian. He was ousted, returned, and died in office. His legacy continues to split opinions to this day. Some call it Peronism, others call it populism. Either way, it changed the course of the nation. Then came the storm. From 1976 to 1983, a military dictatorship seized power. They promised order. What followed was terror. It was called the Dirty War. Over 30,000 people were abducted, tortured, and disappeared. Writers, students, mothers, anyone seen as a threat. The regime censored, silenced, and suffocated. But they could not silence the mothers. Every Thursday, the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo marched in front of the presidential palace, holding photos of their lost children. They wore white scarves. They walked in silence, and the world began to watch. In 1982, the dictatorship led Argentina into war with the United Kingdom over the Falkland Islands, Las Malvinas. The war was short, brutal, and lost. The defeat broke the military's grip, and in 1983, democracy returned. Since then, Argentina has fought to redefine itself. The economy has soared and crashed. Inflation has haunted generations. Corruption has cast long shadows. But so has resilience, and creativity, and defiant hope. This is a country that dances through heartbreak, that writes novels in the rubble, that paints its wounds and turns its struggles into stories. It is the birthplace of Jorge Luis Borges, the blind librarian who redefined literature, of revolutionary Che Guevara, who shook the world with a single photo and 1,000 ideas, and of Lionel Messi, the soft-spoken magician who carried the dreams of a nation on his shoulders. Today, Argentina still wrestles with its past, but it also looks forward, with wine from Mendoza, with electric art from Palermo, with students debating politics in cafes that have stood for over a century, and always, with music. Fun fact, Argentina is home to Ushuaia, the southernmost city on Earth, often called the end of the world. But in many ways, it's just another beginning. So, when you think of Argentina, don't just think of tango and football. Think of the tribes that whispered to the trees, of the mothers who marched through silence, of the poets who challenged time, and the people who still believe in something more. This is not just a country, it is a feeling, a memory that keeps moving. Where will your mind travel next?